Okay, I'm not sure. I think something just like went kitty wonker here. Anyway, I'm back to page 179. We're still in chapter 4. I don't know what happened here, but I'm not re-recording this whole half of this chapter, okay? And we were talking about that figures 5.6. And these might be indicators that you're not listening very well, okay? Thought speed. That's interesting stuff that, we speak a lot slower than our mind can process, and that can be a problem. So you ever know someone that tries to answer what your thoughts are before you're done, and they basically interrupt you? For example, I left a business that I had, a place that I had done business with for over 20 years for that very reason. The one person retired, the new person that came on, I would start to say something and they would answer. I'd say, no, that's not what I was going to say at all. And I'd pick up where I left off and I'd start to say it and they'd interrupt me again and say, oh, so you must be, like, no, that's not why I'm here. It was the most annoying thing ever. And I did talk to a manager. I said, listen, they need to work on their listening skills. They need to not interrupt people and not make an assumption about what they think they're going to say, just because their brain is working faster than the words that are coming out of our mouth. You'll lose business over it, I can guarantee you. Faulty assumptions, that right there. Don't make assumptions about what people are asking for, what they understand, anything. Down the third cluster of factors is external obstacles. Information overload. I call it TMI, just too much information. This is such an informational age. The last 20 years with the advent of computers have just changed our world where that's concerned. Lots of other people talking, ringing phones. Well, our phones maybe buzz now or whatever. I mean, talk about external obstacles. Cell phones. I have to shut mine off or I can't get any work done because, we check them, right? And even if you're at work with your email, for example, I turn mine off because I don't want to hear the ping. You'll get distracted. That's an external obstacle. They go on then office maintenance equipment, speaker phones. Then they talk about physical barriers. Now, this is like your desk or how your office is set up. You shouldn't really sit across from your customer because in general, according to body language experts, right, that's confrontational. We're squaring off against our opponent. If you can sit sideways to someone or from corner to corner, that's a much better approach. And I do the same thing in business with employees, and I do it with my students when I meet as well. I don't sit across from them. And this isn't an argument. This is a conversation. And we need to talk about what's going on here or there and see if we can fix it, right? Because I'm not your opponent in this. We need to work together. And that's kind of the message, excuse me, the body language and the barrier message that we send. Page 184, additional obstacles. Here they go on to talk about language barriers, disabilities, all kinds of things. And we're going to get into those, a lot of those in our diversity chapter. Now I'm going to stop here in 184 because going in the next few pages, you should be analyzing line by line for your final project. This is those strategies for improved listening because that's partly what you're going to report on. What have you done, right, to improve your skills, right? And listening is one of them. So they get into, stop talking. Oh, imagine that. Preparing yourself, listening actively, showing a willingness to listen, showing empathy, listening for concerns, listening openly, sending positive, nonverbal cues. Don't argue, right? Don't argue with your customer. Take notes if necessary. So I'm going to leave that section up to you because you should be analyzing it very closely. There's no rocket science in these few pages. It's just that you need to just slow down a little bit, and I don't need to spend another 30 minutes of your time going through it line by line, when I think if you got out a nice highlighter or something that you could go through it and find those key points that you maybe need for your project. Now, so we're going to fast forward to page 190. And this is information gathering techniques, which basically means asking good questions. And in most of my classes, I try to tell my students, listen, when you're working with your instructors, just like with your bosses, try to ask yourself 3 really hard questions or try 3 things before you go to them or whoever it is you have to go to. Because one of the first things we do, and believe me, if I was your boss, just like your instructor, I'm going to ask you this and say, what have you done so far? It's for 2 reasons. I want to know what you've done so far, because I don't want to waste my time starting at point A, B, C, and D and find out you already did all that, right? So tell me what you've done so far. And it also gives me a lot of background and insight into how much you know, okay? It's not because we're trying to not help you at all. We need to find the gap analysis here. You know, this is what they get out of this, and this is how much they need from me based on their answers. But for that far apart, like, okay, well, let's back it up a little bit, right? So using open-ended questions, and there's tons of examples in here. I don't need to read them all to you, right? I need for you to read them. So open-ended questions like Mrs. What is it? Ms. Could they just say like Ms. Johnson? For what type of, what type of car are you looking for? Why is the extended warranty important to you? These are questions that can't be answered with a yes or no. It uncovers background data, uncovering objections during the sale. They get into giving the customer an opportunity to speak. Using questioning techniques does all of this for you, right? Examples of open-ended questions on page 192. Then they talk about the closed-ended questions. And we can use those for verifying information, right? Closing an order, gaining agreement, clarifying information. And then they give you examples of closed-ended questions. So do you agree that we should begin right away? Yes or no? If they start hedging and talking about blah, 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 you're not there yet. You're not there yet. Now you got to back it up and get on the same page, because if they're not ready to say yes or no, then you haven't gotten them there yet. That's a big clue. And then the last part is additional questions and guidelines. And this is just more like guidelines, I'd say. Avoid the criticism. Ask only positively phrased questions, and then ask direct questions. And then, of course, ask your customers how they can be better served. They're the ones that know what they want. Ask them. Doesn't mean you'll be able to do it, but at least you'll get an idea. And maybe it's something new your company can start doing. So that wraps up our Chapter 5. And you might see this in 2 files, because all of a sudden my webcam just went not recording, and then I picked up. So hopefully it won't be too distracting, because we know what those distractions are. It's not listening. All right, you guys, have a good day.